The role of government. Initially, we have discussed that there is no role of government. G is equal to 0. Now we are bringing the government sector into our analysis, and we are interested to see the role of government in the determination of aggregate output. After witnessing the events in the Great Depression, Keynes took the view that an economy would continually suffer major output fluctuations because of the volatility of autonomous spending, particularly planned investment spending. He was especially worried about sharp decline in autonomous spending, which would inevitably lead to a large decline in output and an equilibrium with high unemployment. As we have discussed that during the period of Great Depression, the output level had decreased up to an undesired level, and similarly, there was a huge unemployment. So, J. M. Keynes was especially entrusted to investigate that how, with the decrease in autonomous spending, can affect the aggregate output level or the equilibrium position of an economy. If autonomous spending fell sharply, how could an economy be restored to higher level of output and more reasonable level of unemployment? This is the major and the most important question. Keynes' answer to this question involved looking at the role of government in determining aggregate output. The government must come and take certain decisions to restore the economy. J. M. Keynes realized that government spending and taxation could affect the position of aggregate demand function and hence manipulate it to restore the economy to full employment. As you know that we can say that aggregate demand is equal to C plus I plus G plus NX. So government expenditure, which is known as G, adds directly to the aggregate demand. But what about taxes? If the government increases the tax rate, how it will affect the aggregate demand? However, taxes do not affect aggregate demand directly. It means that taxes will affect the economy indirectly or in a negative way. So, taxes lower the amount of income that consumers have available for spending and affect aggregate demand by influencing consumer expenditures. It means that when there are taxes, disposable income does not equal aggregate output, because in the previous case we discussed that if there are no taxes, if T is equal to 0, we can say that aggregate demand is equal to output. But now we are saying that there are taxes. It means aggregate, disposable income is not equal to Y. So we can write as YD is equal to Y minus T. We cannot say that YD is equal to Y if there are taxes. So we can rewrite the equation of the consumption function or the aggregate demand as C is equal to A plus MPC multiply YD. But now we are including the factor tax. So we can say that C is equal to A plus MPC multiply Y minus tax. Why? Because we are including the impact of tax. Or we can also write as C is equal to A plus MPC into Y minus MPC into T. This is the simple and the similar consumption function that we had discussed in the absence of taxes, but now we have an additional term minus MPC into T on the right hand side of this equation. When you will read the textbook, you can easily find, or you don't need to, you can also calculate by incorporating tax. You can easily write your aggregate demand function if there are taxes. If taxes increases by $100, consumer expenditures decline by MPC multiplied by this amount. If there is an increase in the amount of tax, it will negatively affect your consumption expenditures. By how much? MPC multiply T. Suppose if MPC is equal to 0.5, if MPC is equal to 0.5, so consumer expenditures decline by 100. This occurs because consumer view $100 of taxes as equivalent to $100 reduction in income and reduce their expenditure by the marginal propensity to consume. Now look at this example. We are talking about the role of government in our aggregate demand analysis. Suppose in the absence of government spending or taxes, the economy was at point 1. Look at here in this figure. This was the original position. The economy was here when there are no taxes. Y1 was the aggregate output and 1 was the equilibrium position, and Y1 AD was the aggregate demand. If the government increases its expenditures or increases its tax rate, how it will affect the output level in the economy. So this Y1 AD is equal to C plus I, which is equal to 500 plus 0.5 Y, blue line. This is the original economic analysis, or this is the original economy position. This is the aggregate demand when there are no taxes, and $1,000 billion is the equilibrium output. Look at here, Y1. This is the equilibrium output level. Now, suppose the economy reaches full employment and an aggregate level of 1800 billion. Look at Y2. Suppose this is the full employment level of the economy, $1800 billion. How can government spending be used to restore the economy to full employment at 1800 billions of aggregate output? What the government will do to reach the economy towards the full employment level? The actual level of the economy is point 1, but the full employment level of the economy is point 2, and where the output is 1800. The question is, how can government spending be used to restore the economy to full employment level of aggregate output? Suppose if government spending is set at $400 billion, so the aggregate demand function shifts upward to Y2AD. Look at here. This is the original function. Now we are saying that the government expenditures has increased by $400 billion. So Y2AD is the new aggregate demand, where we can see 900 plus 0.5. So this 900 represents, in this 900, A is equal to 200, I is equal to 300, and now G is equal to 400. So this is the new aggregate demand function. That's why I have written that change in G, mean change in government expenditures, are plus 400. Plus means expenditures has increased. If the government decreases its expenditures by $400, so we will write change in G is equal to minus 400. So the economy moves to point B and aggregate output rises by 800 billion. How? Y1 was the original equilibrium aggregate output, where Y1 was 1000. But now this is the new aggregate output level, Y2, where Y2 is equal to 1800. It means that the output has changed by $800 billion. It means that this figure shows that the aggregate output is positively related to government expenditures. Why? Because we have increased the government expenditures, which has also increased the aggregate output level, and that a change in government spending leads to a multiplied change in aggregate output. Look at here. We have changed government expenditures by about 400. but the output has changed by 800, from 1000 to 1800. It means that we have changed government expenditures by about 400, but the out by about 800 billion dollars. So we can say that 1 divided by 1 minus MPC, if MPC is 0.5, so the value of expenditure multiplier is equal to 2. Therefore, declines in planned investment expenditures that produce high unemployment can be offset by raising government expenditure.